G'day ladies and gentlemen, Scotty49 here with you once again for another installment in the Warhammer 40,000 for the New Guys series. Now in this video we're going to be finishing off talking about the Deathwatch as we're going to be looking at the next steps of what you likely would like to add on to the first option you picked up in the starting the army section. But before we continue any further, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everyone that has subscribed on the channel as of late. It's been absolutely popping off and I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the content that I am releasing here on YouTube. So if you haven't already and you do enjoy the content, make sure to hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell so you are notified as to when I am releasing more content here on YouTube. But ladies and gentlemen, let's jump into it. Alrighty everyone, so this video, as I've already said, directly follows on from the last video of starting the army, and we're going to be talking about 3 different next step options for how you can expand those starting the army options to get your Deathwatch force from the combat patrol size up to the incursion size for your games of Warhammer 40,000. Now, as with all of my previous videos, these 3 options will be around 250 Australian dollars and will be combined with the starting the army options with the aim of being less than $500. And as well, anytime I do mention monetary value in this video, I am going to be talking in Australian dollars. Now, I believe out of all the kits that you can choose from for adding on to the starting the army options, I believe that these are the best combinations that you can go with, and they are more of a thematic focus rather than a competitive focus. So let's jump in to the combat patrol next steps options. So for this option, I've selected 3 different kits that are focused on adding on to the Primaris focus of that combat patrol. And that is the Primaris Captain, 5 Heavy Intercessors, and 10 Hellblasters. Now, the cost of this option is $60 for the Primaris Captain, $105 for the Heavy Intercessors, and $98 for the 10 Hellblasters, coming to a total of $263. Now, depending on how you equip these units, you can get a maximum of 580 points between these units. Now, in my opinion, there are several pros for adding this option on to the combat patrol. With the additional HQ and troop option, you'll be able to legally create a battalion detachment to use for your incursion level games. With these kits, you'll also be able to make 3 different kill teams with all of the units between the combat patrol and these 3 kits as well, with 2 of them being 5 Intercessors and 5 Hellblasters in one kill team, and the other being 5 Heavy Intercessors and 3 Aggressors in another. And this means that you'll be able to also make the Hellblasters and Aggressors into a troops choice and gaining the benefits that go along with that, which is known as the objective secured rule. And it means you'll be able to take that battalion detachment with the 2 HQ, the 3 troops being the 3 kill teams, and the apothecary in an elite slot. Now, the Hellblasters add some much needed heavy firepower into this option, as well as the tougher unit of Heavy Intercessors that can put out a lot of decent anti-infantry firepower as well. However, there are a few cons to going with this option. Outside of the characters and the aggressors in the combat patrol when you combine them together, this option really doesn't have that much in terms of dedicated close combat ability, as it's mainly more focused on ranged firepower. And again, all of these kits are standard kits that you might not be familiar with, so make sure you're following the instructions, and even then it can still be quite daunting, so make sure to get help if you need it. When you add this option onto the combat patrol's maximum of 500 points, it gives you a solid high maximum of 1,080 points to use for your incursion level games. Now, cost-wise, the combat patrol was $230, and with these options, they are a bit over that $250 goal. However, they do come under the combined total 500, coming in at $493. Overall, I do still think that this is a great option when it comes down to starting off a Deathwatch army, as you're able to make great use of the kill teams with those Primaris Space Marines, whilst also getting the most out of your included characters. The next option we're going to be talking about is the instead of option 1, Kill Team Cassius next steps. Now for this option, I've continued to focus on the firstborn Space Marines that we had with the Kill Team Cassius by selecting 4 kits that would work perfectly as the next steps in my opinion. And these are 5 Deathwatch veterans, 2 boxes of 3 Space Marine bikes, at a unit of 5 Vanguard veterans. Now the cost of these kits is $66 for 5 Deathwatch veterans, $55 for each of the 3 Space Marine bikes, and $78 for the box of 5 Vanguard veterans, coming to a total of $254. Now depending on how you equip these kits, you'll be able to roughly get out a maximum of 500 points to make use of. There are a few pros that go along with this option as well, as they're all firstborn Space Marine kits at their core. You can use any of the pieces in the other kits, which will allow you to equip the bikes and the Vanguard veterans with different equipment that they can legally take, and I'll make that note in the cons, that you normally wouldn't be able to equip them with from their own individual kits. Now with these kits, in combination with the starting the army portion, you'll be able to legally create a battalion detachment to use for your incursion level games. These kits also allow you to create 2 Proteus kill teams of 5 Deathwatch veterans and 3 bikes with 2 Vanguard veterans as well. This option does allow for a great amount of both anti-infantry firepower, close combat ability, and a great amount of mobility in your list with the bikes and the Vanguard veterans when you combat squad those kill teams. These kits will also allow you to make the best use of some of the army-wide rules that the Deathwatch have access to. However, there are a few cons to go with it. If you are wanting those Deathwatch shoulder pads on the bikes and the Vanguard veterans, you won't have them unless you additionally purchase the Deathwatch upgrade sprue, which will have 10 shoulder pads on there for you to use. Again, outside of a few weapon options in the Deathwatch veteran kits, there is a limited amount of heavier firepower options for being able to deal with vehicles and monsters outside of close combat. It also can be hard to figure out what you're wanting to equip these models with without having access to the codex or knowing the options each unit can legally take. As a Deathwatch unit, feel free to use Battlescribe or whatever other source you're able to get access to look up these rules and these options as well. Now, this option does add on to the maximum 700 points of the starting the army option for a maximum of 1200 points to be able to use for your games, depending on how you have equipped the miniatures. Now, cost-wise, the total for getting both the start in the army and the next steps parts for this option comes to a total of $496. So it will go over that $500 mark if you do end up needing to get that Deathwatch upgrade sprue. Overall, if you are wanting to add some more characterful models, some name characters, and make the best use of some of the Deathwatch army rules, this is likely going to be the option for you, because what you can do is, if you don't want to take the Kill Team Cassius unit, you can put those veterans into the other kill teams and add some character to them as well. And last but not least, we get up to, instead of option 2, the next steps. And for this next steps option, I've selected 4 different kits that will add some different options compared to the others, which are the company command box with 1 captain and 5 company veterans that can be made into an apothecary, a company champion, or a company ancient as well. 5 Deathwatch veterans, 3 Space Marine bikes, and 5 Deathwing Terminators. And I'll explain why in a minute that we've gone with the Deathwing kit here. The cost of these kits comes to $70 for the company command box, $66 for the Deathwatch veterans, $55 for the Space Marine bikes, and $75 for the Deathwing Terminators, coming to a total of $266. Now, depending on how you assemble the company veterans, the Deathwatch veterans, the bikes, and the Deathwing Terminators, this option can add a maximum of around 650 points. This option has got a lot of pros to adding these kits to what you've got to start off with. Now, these kits provide you with a heap of variety of additional units, from characters to mobile units to durable units in your army as well. It'll also give you a lot more firepower options, particularly with the Deathwing Terminators. And I've chosen to go with them over standard Terminators so that you get a variety of options between close combat and ranged Terminators, with enough parts to be able to do 5 of each, or a mix between them with a few heavy weapons in there as well, because the standard Terminator kits don't come with the close combat options as well as the range. It's either you get the ranged options or the close combat, and some of the Deathwing parts do have exclusive weapons to just them, so I thought it was pertinent to add them in there. With these options added on to the starting the army units, you'll be able to legally create a battalion detachment to use for incursion level games. You'll be able to actually make 2 Proteus kill teams with 5 Deathwatch veterans and 5 bikes for one, and 5 Deathwatch veterans and 5 Terminators for the other. The Deathwatch veterans, bikes, company veterans are all firstborn kits, which will allow you to mix and match weapon options between them. And this option also allows you to field units that are able to fulfill every role that you could potentially want at this size of the game in terms of both ranged and close combat ability. However, there are a few cons to starting off with this option. The Deathwing Terminators do have a lot of Dark Angels detail on them, and it just means that you may need to consider how you assemble them, as well as how much iconography and details are present of the Dark Angels on there. You won't have enough Deathwatch shoulder pads to be able to cover all of the Terminators, but you will have enough to cover the bikes from the Deathwatch upgrade sprue that you got in the first part of this option. It can also be hard to figure out what you want to equip all of these models without having access to the codex and knowing what each of the units options are able to take. As we did discuss in the last option, feel free to look at Battle Scribe or any other source that you can find out there as well. Now, these kits will add on to the starting the army options maximum of 500 points to make up a combined total of around 1,150 points to make use of in your games. Cost-wise, however, this does just come over the normal pricing goal of $500, being $508. If you are wanting to have it under, you cannot pick up one of the kits or not grab the Deathwatch upgrade sprue from the starting the army option. Overall, despite going over budget with this option, I still think it is a great option to start off with, adding on to your starting the army option with these box sets, as they do add a lot of different units to make use of in your Deathwatch army to start off with. Now again, out of these 3 options, if I was to start collecting my Deathwatch from the ground zero, and I'd probably go the third option. I would pay that little bit more to add that third option on, so that I'm able to have a good variety of units as well as a little bit of everything in my Deathwatch force as well, taking in consideration the next steps option and the starting the army option. And ladies and gentlemen, that finishes off our look at the Deathwatch for the New Guy series. Alrighty everyone, so this was the last video where I was going to be focusing on the Deathwatch in the series, and I hope that as a Deathwatch player myself, I've been able to give you a great insight into them with their place in the universe, how they play, and some great ways to start the army for yourself. Now, if you do enjoy this content, you haven't already, feel free to hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. If you disagree with me at all at any parts of this video, feel free to leave a comment down below, and if you enjoyed this one, make sure to hit that like button too. It's always greatly appreciating any interaction you guys have here on YouTube. But if you have any feedback or you have any questions you don't feel comfortable asking here, that's okay. Feel free to come and find me where I am live over on Twitch on Tuesday mornings and Friday nights, Australian Eastern Standard Time, as well as Saturday afternoons. Going forward, they may get a bit hairy in terms of whether they're there or not, so bear that in mind. But you can ask me there, where we do a multitude of different things. We do hobby streams, we talk about news and new releases, we do some live games and tournament coverage on there as well from the Australian competitive 40k tournament scene. But ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video where we start the new faction for the New Guy series. Catch you then.